Saurabh Jain, who's VP Business Performance Controlling at Siemens Healthineers, and today he will take us through storytelling. So over to you, Saurabh, whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you very much, Hans. Let's start with my presentation. Okay, so picking up on the string of 7 traits, as Hans illustrated, I'll talk about storytelling today. So according to a study by McKinsey, nearly 38.6 million potential FTEs could be displaced through the process of automation. Furthermore, the jobs that involve collecting and processing data would be increasingly better and faster managed by machines. However, let's look at it this way. Automation will have a lesser effect on jobs that involve managing people, applying expertise, and social interactions. That should not come as a surprise at all. But the real question is, how are we faring through this transition? Are we adding expertise? Are we storytelling? Storytelling, or the soft skills thereof, would be the main skill differentiator in future. As I'll illustrate in my next slide. So in my early years, when I was fairly young and junior, I was once explaining key monthly numbers to the management, mainly a combination of non-financial colleagues and executives. And during the meeting, I somehow realized that the audience was lost. On a spectrum of bored, mesmerized, or outrightly confused, as if I was playing a Mandarin movie without subtitles. My panel information, my financial information, and my due, which I took a great pride in, was not being appreciated by the colleagues. Tell me something about underappreciated effort and love. So do you also feel that your organization faces similar challenges? FP&A is mainly driving reporting and very little insight, or we have meetings, but there are no actions in those meetings. There's lack of collaboration, lack of engagement, lack of focus on critical priorities. And finally, you would see FP&A teams are not able to drive elements like business partnering or perception of finance, as we've seen in earlier panelists' presentations through. So over the years, I realized different people process information differently. I also observed influences like attention span, outcome-oriented brain, power of presenting, or priming as we call it, and involving the audience through a journey. Empowered with these realizations, I worked on developing skills to communicate effectively with key decision makers. I'll explain it further in my next slide. Okay, so once upon a time, and that's how stories go, right? Once upon a time in a professional life, I was faced with profit gap situation in a critical project. There was committed revenue that was lower than the roll-up of forecasted costs, leading to a serious issue with profitability and continuity. Sounds familiar, right? I mean, most of our FP&A colleagues and professionals there. We needed to take hard measures to cut costs and return to profitability. And in that particular case, even more importantly, sustainability. I simply laid the costs with drivers and compared it to the committed revenue, as you can see it on the graph. And I highlighted the gap without stating the amount or anything. I just highlighted, and I gave it a pause. And within seconds, somebody from the audience popped up with a comment. We're losing money here. Yes, we were not making money and we needed to do something about it before we ran out of money and options. In next 1 hour, we went through every individual cost driver with the team in a transparent way that led to a hard choice I would otherwise have struggled to propose. There were a lot of things in the background, and I may have erred in this example on the side of oversimplification. But here, what was important learning for me was, if you are able to get and focus on attention through storytelling, you let them come to the conclusions and drive the transparency. All these things lead to an engaged audience and fruitful discussions. I would highlight this further in my next slide. Okay, so this was a very simple lesson, and I had opportunities to look into storytelling at different fora involving different audience groups. So on the top left, this is an example of communicating multi-horizon business plans to senior management, where over 10 years integrated business plan, I had built a storyline around saturation of profits, investments, dilution, and resolution of the profit dilution through multiple inflection points. And those are highlighted with those rounded out. Here, we successfully advocated the need for continuous investment through the horizons and the deep investment analysis. Now, going down to the bottom left graph, in this case, we were dealing with the financial analyst or the greater analyst community during the pandemic. And the idea was to manage expectations of the external community through the crisis, where it was significant decline in quarterly revenue, and somehow restore the faith of the markets and the analyst community in the overall stability and continuity of the business. So what we did through this chart, the audience was taken through the current set of revenue growth, the pain or the trough that we were expecting of drop during the pandemic phases, and then a detailed scenario-driven recovery process illustrated with the help of data and scenario analysis. In the end, we were able to manage analyst community's expectations through the storytelling process during those very difficult times. So with that, coming to the final part of my talk today, I would re-emphasize the principles of storytelling. First, know your audience. There is no cookie cutter approach to storytelling. You have to tailor-make the story for each user audience group. There are, like a good novel, a good drama, a structured approach to storytelling. There is a setup, there has to be a conflict and a resolution. Ideally, the aha moments, the discovery process should be done or should arrive by the audience themselves. Good stories are personal stories. If you know your business very well and can connect the personal dots through either data or anecdotes, the stories are powerful and long-lasting. And finally, it's not a storytelling exercise. All of this should drive decision-making through clarity, evidence, and connectivity. So as a conclusion, I would say, with a conscious effort, data could be turned into insights and further used for decision-making. As an FP&A professional, the power to control the narrative and the viewer's attention is vested with you. So go ahead and be a storyteller.